I'm scared, and I think we all are. It is very scary to start a creative career, wearing your heart on your sleeve, telling the world that you're gonna try for something and very likely fail at a lot of things in front of them. So how do we overcome this fear? We don't, but we use tools in order to help ourselves get through it a little bit more. First fear I have encountered, and I hear a lot of people encounter, is getting a real job. I remember in college, I was told you want to get a job that isn't exhausting. You're not like so tired by the end of the day or by the end of the night that you can't focus on what you love. I was also told, because I went to school for theater, you don't want to get a job that's like during the day because then you can't go to audition. But then there's this fear of you need to get a job, you need to make money. This projector is really bothering me. There's the fear of you want to get the job that is just at the right time, that it's like not during the day so you can audition, but it's not too late at night because then you're too tired. And then there's the big fear that we are fed by social media. You don't want to get trapped in a full-time job. I think this fear is like implicitly placed on creative people because it can feel like a trap sometimes if you don't do it the right way. The solution to this whole fear of, oh my gosh, I have to get a real job, I'm never gonna be an artist because I'm going to be trapped in a job and I'm never gonna be able to get out, is to get a remote job, because projections are all they are. And projections aren't really real, but the money is. Now, I know a lot of people could argue with me and say, well, you know, projections are real money, but I just want you to bear with me for a second because this is kind of what I'm saying. If you're anything like me, then you have a very specific amount of energy that you can put towards being creative every day. If I'm in an in-person job, I want it to be my dream job. I want it to be in a theater or doing a music video or working on music. I don't want anything other than my dream job to be in person because I can differentiate what is real and what is a projection. What is real is Static and I in the studio. What is real is us having a production meeting and planning out a song. What is real is us going to a local venue. Then I can separate that to what a projection is. In 2020, that's kind of where I started all of this. Everything was a projection to the point where everyone was like, oh my gosh, I need real life interaction. But what was great about that is that I was able to start building this differentiation between what's real is I'm gonna go in the studio and record, but then I'm gonna like put my energy into this projection on the screen. So I know I could actually make income from this, which is freaking amazing. But when I close my computer, I know that I don't have to worry about it. It's not like I have to go into work and all of my energy is in work until I come back. That is exhausting, my friends. That is exhausting. And if you're doing that right now, if you're a bartender, if you're working in food service, if you're working on site for something, mad respect, man, mad respect for you. You obviously have been able to manage this long for that. If that is something that gives you energy and actually makes you more inspired to continue creating, that's amazing. I'm just speaking out of personal experience and out of a lot of people who I have talked to, that I find that having these two separations can actually get rid of this fear of being trapped in that full-time job. So let's talk about that. So we're talking about, this is the fear, is getting stuck in a real job. And I'm saying the solution is to get a job that's a projection, that's in your computer, that's digital marketing, that's video editing, that's freelance writing or social media management. But how are we overcoming that fear of being stuck? It could be as simple as you're not stuck anymore. If you're able to create boundaries for yourself through working remotely, which I think is a fantastic way of creating boundaries in your work if you're pursuing something else, then you're not gonna be stuck. You'll be able to manage your time. You might have jobs that are 9 to 5, but a lot of that means you could have your own home office. You can carry your laptop around. You can bring it to the library. You can freaking work in bed if you want. Or for some jobs, you can even work whenever you want, as long as the job gets done. I'm really lucky that I have clients that they're like, I literally could not care less when you work as long as you like get it in by this date. And that gives me the freedom. I don't feel stuck because I can plan each and every week, each and every day out of the fact that I know my work is a projection on here, And my real life is all the music and everything that I'm pursuing. And this right now, this is real. I want you to think about this fear of getting trapped. We're seeing a lot of this on social media. Again, I bet you might be fed this if you're into self-development, like, don't get trapped in that full-time job. And it's only trapped if you let yourself get trapped. And a big part of it is having the ability to differentiate between the pursuit that you're actually following, and knowing that creating those boundaries is gonna make sure that you never get trapped in a job. You'll be able to say, all right, you know what, I'm gonna take a long weekend. I'm gonna work on a little bit more on Monday, and then I'm gonna take Friday off. We're gonna do this art gallery. We're gonna go on this local tour, whatever it is, and you're not trapped. Now, this isn't to say eventually if you don't wanna work in digital marketing or in anything in your projection job, but this is a really good way to, again, get started. It's not about you have to do this forever, but the idea that, okay, maybe you can get a full-time job, but it's remote and the people are really nice, and at 5 o'clock you get to close that projection and then you get to do what you want, is something that can help you get enough funds and or energy to pursue your craft. Another fear I find is that a lot of people feel like they're the only ones trying to pursue this. They feel very lonely. I remember I did have a nice community of artists. I was in a performing arts school, and even in college, like I was in the theater program, but I grew up in a town where I was like the only person who was pursuing this. And so in that element, going to school every day, especially when it started getting around college decision time, I felt a little bit like an outsider. And there is this idea of starting something when you really don't have anyone else who is doing it. You don't have any accountability buddies, you kind of feel by yourself. And I'm hoping this is not you, but there are quite a few people who will say, I want to start my own Etsy shop, or like, I want to become a singer-songwriter. And all of their friends are like, all right, we'll, see you never, because we're just chilling in our 9-to-5 job, which is totally fine for them. But for you, then it can kind of feel like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna figure it out. And a really simple solution for this is to join communities, and communities can come in free ways and in paid ways. I think there's a lot of great value in actually just finding people on YouTube to help you, teach you what you need to know. A lot of times YouTubers will have Facebook groups, oh, join my free Facebook group, or some sort of email list or something like that. That's free content, and you do feel like you're a part of a community. There's going to be a very limited amount of value that you get from free communities compared to paid communities. There is educational content on YouTube that you can get a community from too. I find that if you really do need more accountability, you're gonna find these really well in paid communities, courses, things like that. I've bought blogging courses that come with access to a Facebook community. And for me, when I buy something, I'm going to make sure I use the heck out of it personally. If I get something for free, I'm like, okay, it's free. I place a very limited amount of value on it because it's free. But as soon as I have to whip out my wallet and pay for something, I'm like, oh, let me take like full advantage of this. I feel like you would too. I have to go to the bathroom. I'm back. You can find community and free education, free events for artists and people who are in your niche. But then there are also communities that you pay for. There are communities that are monthly subscriptions to certain apps where you have some sort of forum, you can ask questions, there are weekly lives, there are things like that. Again, I belong to both. Then there's also just weekly and monthly rituals you can create with your friends. Maybe you even have a friend who might not be an artist, but they'd be interested in going to see a show or going to a cute crafting event or whatever it may be. You guys can hold each other accountable of, okay, yeah, let's do that together. Again, that all stems back from, starting something new that other people might not be doing. And it might not be an active thing that you're thinking, but I don't know, for me, I find it's very subconscious. Like, if I'm the only one pursuing something, it can feel really lonely. Like, even as an artist, I don't know anyone else in my group who's also pursuing the YouTube and blogging route. In that sense, it could feel a little bit alienating for me. There are times where I'm like, wow, I really can't talk to anyone about this specific path, but I have friends who are musicians and artists, and I have friends who are aspiring to be content creators, so I just have to pull from both of those resources and use that as my way of supporting myself, even if it's not specifically what I'm doing. Communities in those different areas can be really helpful. Did I say areas weird? Different areas. This is probably one of my biggest fears, and it's happened over and over again, and it's fine. I was afraid of it, and then it happened, and then I was like, wow, okay, I'm still alive. The fear of failing in front of people. I mean, it is so incredibly difficult to start something when you initially tell people, guys, I'm starting this, join me on my journey. There's a lot of conflicting information out there because I think a lot of people will say, hey, if you release music, tell people about it. If you start an Instagram for your XYZ, tell people about it. But I actually don't recommend that. And I've talked about this in other videos before. This is a very sacred time for your business. This is a very precious time. Think of it as a birth. I would personally not want a million people to witness me giving birth. Envision even after you give birth and you have this baby. If you're a new mom, I know when you have a baby, other people are gonna be, oh, are you feeding them this? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you, like, no. So any way you can avoid that, I don't think you can avoid that as a mom, probably, or a dad, but in your art, there are ways that you can avoid that, which is to just not tell anybody at first. Give it some time to breathe. Give yourself some time to create. That will actually alleviate this fear of people seeing you fail at the beginning. This all goes back to you starting at the beginning of this. You're gonna have to tell people eventually, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But right when you start out, you don't wanna have this crippling fear of everyone's watching me and I said that I'm gonna release a song on this date, but I'm actually not ready because I've never done this before. Like, just don't share it with people. Just let this be your little secret. Honor that special sacred time and just sit and float in that moment for a little bit. This is also gonna give you the ability to experiment with things. And as an artist, I always say, as an artist, you're an alchemist. You are always experimenting, and you need that time and space to experiment. And what gets in the way of experimenting? People asking you, oh, should you really do that? Maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. And then you get analysis paralysis, and you actually put both of the vials down and you just walk away because everyone's telling you to do something different. Instead of just freaking doing it, and then if it blows up, okay, we know it blows up. That's all I can really say to that. This last fear wasn't really a fear that I knew until it happened, was this idea of not having enough time for my art. This might go into the first one a little bit of like getting trapped in a full-time job, so now I don't have time. But this kind of goes into like really businessifying your creativity by doing as much as you can to carve out time for your creativity, just like you do for a business. In a perfect world, you'd wake up and you'd be able to create all the time. But we as people have to set up a space in order to allow ourselves to create. We have to make time to create systems in order for us to create. How many times can I say create in this video? When I say businessifying this creative process, what I'm talking about is creating a space where it is so easy to do your art. I have this camera right here. It's set up in the same spot every time, so when I feel inspiration, I just turn it on and I can record. I have this piano here. I don't have to drag it out from the garage every single morning. I have it here so that whenever I feel inspired, I can start playing. Static has a guitar upstairs, many guitars in fact, so whenever he needs to write out something, he will just grab it and start playing. I have a recurring calendar invitation every week on Thursday from 6 to 8 for me and Static and our friend Mike to all work on music together. These are systems that we've done once that help us every time we need to create. So when I say businessify, I'm saying take the time to set something up once so you can continually create over and over again. So what are some of these things you can do for your own business? Is this having like an easel ready, all of your markers, all of your pens, everything sitting in a space in your home so that whenever you get inspiration, you could easily just pick it up and do it? Do you have any time slots that you've allocated for yourself where you can just focus on your art. Do you track goals? Do you have project management tools to organize? Like, okay, how many pieces of art do I need in order to open this Etsy shop? Or like, what amount of this would I need to get to this next goal? Do you have goals set in place that you've created once in the past few months that you can just revisit every day? It's things like this that you do once that will help you with your creative process on and on. This is especially important for when we're starting. The first one is always the hardest, but I also find like the second hardest is just to keep going, because there's gonna be moments where it's so hard, even you've done 3, and then there's like that 4th one that you're just like, oh my gosh, this video is so hard to edit, or, oh, I really don't like working on, like, you'll find snags. It's so hard to keep going. So make it so easy for yourself so you don't have to be afraid of not having time, because you can look at your calendar and say, oh, okay, great. I don't have to worry about not having time this week because I already have a session booked out in the rehearsal studio so I can work on this song. I already have something booked in my calendar where I know I'm gonna do whatever in this time frame. There's the fear of starting, continuing, going, failing, getting trapped. All of these are really fears that we make up in our heads and that are so conceptual, but they're not actually physical fears. They're things that we have mentally put in our way, and that a lot of people put in their ways, that ends up slowing them down from being able to pursue their dreams. If you want a step-by-step way to know what to do your first 6 months, I would definitely suggest watching this next video so you can continue on in this path. If you haven't yet, I would love for you to subscribe so you can get some more creative inspiration. I will see you next time. Bye.